Hey, everybody, it's Chris Widener. I'm the president of the American Freedom Tour, and you're watching the American Freedom Tour show. Be sure to join us over at AmericanFreedomTour.com. Be sure to visit us in some of the cities that we're going to and ask us if we can bring our show to your city, because we certainly want to do that as well. We bring in the best speakers, not only for our tour, but also for the show here. And today is no different. In fact, he's been with us on a number of our stops on the American Freedom Tour. He's a dear friend of mine, lifelong friend. He's a professional speaker and author. His name is Lieutenant Colonel Rob Waldo Waldman. It's kind of a mouthful, but Rob went to or Waldo as he goes by, went to the U.S. Air Force Academy. He flew for the Air Force for years, flew dozens and dozens of sorties in combat. He has written a book called Never Fly Solo. He's a member of the National Speaker Association Hall of Fame of Speakers, and just a really incredible guy, and one of the top professional speakers in America today. Waldo, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you jumping on here with us.
Great to be here, Chris, as always.
Yeah, awesome. Well, you know what? We always want to let people know where they can find our guests. Where can people find you on the internet?
If you go to yourwingman.com, yourwingman.com, that's my website. A lot of videos, a lot of content there. You can sign up for some newsletters and some mission-ready videos. And then also at Waldo Waldman on Instagram and social media. I think I've got something here. Yeah, at Waldo Waldman. That's the easiest way to find me.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we're going to do something fun today. One of the things that a lot of people know about and they highly respect, but I don't know that they really know the inner workings of our U.S. service academies. And we have a number of those service academies, obviously West Point, the Naval Academy, Coast Guard Academy, Merchant Marine Academy. A lot of people don't even know about the Merchant Marine Academy. And of course, the U.S. Air Force Academy, where you went to in Colorado Springs. And I thought it would be great to sort of expose people to what it's like at the Air Force Academy. And generally speaking, all the academies, but the Air Force Academy there in Colorado Springs, and you've served as a liaison, right, to students who want to maybe go to the U.S. Air Force Academy, and I know that you've done that as well as a student liaison. But tell us how you decided. You grew up where, the Bronx or the Brooklyn? I can't remember if you were Bronx or Brooklyn.
On Suffolk County, around 30 minutes from Brooklyn. My mom.
Okay, gotcha. So how do you decide to go to the Air Force Academy? How does that happen?
So, the academy, I liked sports. I loved riding dirt bikes. I was always very good in school. I graduated at the top of my class, but I didn't want anything more than to go to the Air Force Academy. I wanted it more than anything in my life other than flying jets and finding a great partner in my wife. So the problem was my dad talked to me about West Point and Annapolis. West Point is for the Army and Annapolis is for the Navy. And I had no desire at all to go to any of those academies. My dad was a Navy crew chief for years, served for years, and he always was pushing that. But it was until 10th grade, my admissions counselor, guidance counselor, came up to me at a career day and asked me, what I wanted to do. I wasn't really sure. I was doing very well. He's like, have you ever considered the military academy or the Air Force Academy, West Point or whatever? I'm like, yeah, my dad talked to me about it, but I'm really not interested. He's like, well, he learned about my passion for aviation. He exposed me to the academy. And ever since then, I was absolutely passionate because I learned about the academy. I looked up the catalogs. We didn't have the internet back then. So I read the books. My older brother's best friend went to the Air Force Academy. So I researched and found others who had gone. I learned that the values, the disciplines, the commitment to excellence, the high standards that I lived in my life was par for the course at the Air Force Academy. And I'm like, this is the place that I got to go. Sometimes your parents are almost they can almost get you down the right path. My dad tried to, but it was until that guidance counselor exposed it to me. And that's how it is at life many times. We expose people to things that they may not be familiar with because we see a potential for them, and that opens up a whole door of opportunities and a whole paradigm of success in life.
Yeah. I read a book, interesting book about the service academies at one point, boy, probably 20, 30 years ago now. And they talked about how everybody that gets into a service academy has already been successful. They don't take unsuccessful kids into the service academy. You have to prove leadership, skill sets, things like that, community service, top of your class, good grades, all those kinds of things. And so most of the people who come into the service academies are already leaders. But the first thing that they try to do at the service academy is create you into a follower. Tell us a little bit about what happens there. How do they strip away and humble these kids who come in, president of the student body, quarterback of the football team, all these things, they show up. How do they start by training you? You're not Mr. Superstar anymore. You're all part of a team, because isn't that really what they're trying to build, especially that first year, is that cohesive nature, the ability to understand line of command and all those things. I thought that was really interesting, the tactics that they use to do that.
Yeah, well, they say they take away all your God-given rights at the Air Force Academy the first year, and then give them back to you as privileges over the next 4 years.
Mm.
So you start appreciating all those gifts and the freedoms that you have. Go to where you want to go, wear the clothes you want to wear, wake up when you want to wake up. There was all these restrictions, and as a fourth classman,
Haircut, they trim your hair right off.
everything is just standards, restrictions, etc. And then you start really appreciating all those God-given rights that you may have taken for granted for in the years past. And guess why you do that? Because that's ultimately what you're fighting for. That's what makes America such an amazing country, a bastion for freedom and success in the world. So
Yeah.
going in, I was like very successful in high school. I did top of my class, etc. But sure as heck, like you said, Chris, you go there, you look to your left and right. There's always somebody smarter, faster, stronger than you. And
Yeah, they all did that, right?
yeah, everybody. It's amazing, the quality, the caliber of people. My dad always said, "Be careful who you spend time with on the weekends." You see these men and women there, you're like, man, these are top guns in life, and you want to be around that energy because iron sharpens iron. So what I loved about it was being around those people. Eventually, as a fighter pilot, was that the standards are so high. Everybody pushed each other. You had this friendly competition, and sometimes it was brutal competition because halfway through basic training, actually right in the beginning, after we got our haircut, uniform, learned how to march, everybody looked the same, right? All the standards were the same. And they brought you into this hot, sweaty room. They cranked up the heat. You're under arms, with your rifle in your hand, and they doing all these drills, and you're sweating from head to toe, and people are dropping like flies. And they basically said, look to your left and right. Look to your left and right. One of you will not be here in 4 years. There's a 33% washout rate. And the
Is
only
that standard across all the academies?
all the academies, all through pilot training, through most military training, the average washout rate is like 33%, at least for aviation, fighter squadron.
Well, the real problem with that is they, if you drop out of the service academies, I think they make you pay the money back, don't they?
After
That
your
they spent on you, because it's a
second
world class education.
after you complete your second year, when you're committed to your junior year, then you got to owe money back. But before that, you have the option to wash out.
Oh, okay.
You don't know anything. So, and then they had the music go on. We will all go down together. I think it's a Billy Joel song. Very emotional, very spiritual, very the camaraderie, the unity, the feeling of patriotism and honor, and we're going to get there together. They were always pushing that. It was amazing, and the harder it got, the more you linked up with your buddies. And the more you learn to depend on them, and you wanted them to depend on you, which is really the foundation of what I talk about as a coach and as a speaker, that you're not flying solo. And at that moment was emblazoned this understanding of teamwork, collaboration, that you can't do it alone, and that we were one team with one mission. And they did a great job of building that up. And guess what? The folks who washed you out, the ones who pushed you out of the squadron, were normally your peers. Because there were some great guys and gals in my basic training class, but there were others who were lone soldiers. They weren't team players. And man, we did not want to hang out with them. They were alienated. They were pushed to the side. And just like in in the African tundra. When you're alone and scared, the enemy will come and tear you apart. And quite frankly, we
Yeah.
wanted that to happen because we needed to depend on each other. And that's how it is in life a lot. If you're flying solo, if you're
Yeah.
myopic and not building relationships and embracing trust, it's going to be a tough. It's going to be a tough journey.
Yeah. Talk to us about the honor code. The honor code is something that they use in the academies and some of the other non-governmental like VMI, Virginia Military Institute in Lexington, Virginia, and some of those other places as well. They have this honor code, and the honor code is designed to well, I'll let you tell what the honor code is designed for. I have some theories, but it's interesting to me because I think in this day and age, a lot of people would say, "Oh, how quaint." Isn't that, the little Christian rules that they have, for playing nice together? But I think there's something powerful in the honor code. Can you talk to us a little bit about what the honor code was, how it was utilized, what happens when you break it, and why it's so important?
Yeah, this is a very important bastion of every military academy that serves as the foundation for your the way you conduct yourselves at the academy. And I'll share what it was at the Air Force Academy. The others are very, very similar. And it's we will not lie, steal, or cheat, nor tolerate among us anyone who does. We will not lie, steal, or
Mm,
cheat, nor tolerate among us anyone who does. Now, 17, 18-year-old kid right out of high school, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to uh, have lapses of judgment. You're going to do stupid things. And so we understand basically with the code that you're going to learn through the code, which is administered by a peer of cadets. It's not administered by officers. It's by your peers, and it's enforced by your peers. Um, we want to make the punishment more and more severe. Initially, it was marching tours or confinement, and then eventually you wouldn't be able to leave the base. You'd gather demerits. You'd march tours, like I mentioned, back and forth with a rifle for an hour at a time, which wasn't fun. And then you would potentially get kicked out of the academy. And as I mentioned, after your junior year, if you got kicked out or quit, you owed time in the military. So the standards and responsibilities got higher as you achieved more rank. And so the code wasn't, like I said, a way. It was a mode of discipline and conduct, but we needed to understand the parameters in which to operate. It's like the Bible, right? If you're a conservative, believe in the Bible, you believe in your Judeo-Christian principles. Many times, if you don't have that metric, that true north, you're flying by the seat of your pants. You're what we call in the Air Force tumbleweed, just blowing along by the winds of the wind, right? Wherever you go, like a tumbleweed in the middle
mm,
of the desert. But when you have an honor code, you have a true north, a template in which to act. And if you stay within that, when in doubt, you follow that template, those standards, and it'll keep you from getting shot down for making a mistake. But there are always
Yeah, I'd like to think of them as cultural expectations. It sets cultural expectations. This is our culture. We don't lie, we don't cheat, we don't steal, and the people who do will no longer be part of our culture, or they'll be trained into our way, or they'll be removed from our culture. And frankly, I think society ought to have an honor code. Well, we used to have an honor code, and now it's more just do whatever you want to do. And I think it would be great if we had an honor code that we all as Americans agreed upon.
Yeah, and that's why I said that's why I believe in the Bible and a lot of these principles. I think if you follow that template of success in life, in general, you're going to build good relationships, you're going to build trust, you're going to garner friendships, you're going to do the right thing when you're tempted to sin or break the rules. And so I like the rules. I like the rules at the academy because it many times it's like the academy. And I was a disciplinarian. I made every mistake in the book. Eventually did very well there, but it's a learning institution. And so as a
Yeah.
leader at the academy, as an upperclassman, you would be, the hammer, right? You see somebody making a mistake, you didn't square your corners, you took 8 chews instead of 7, you broke a rule, you're getting feedback, you're gonna get punished. So you knew the consequence immediately. And then a great leader would then give reasoning behind why you were being punished and why it's important for us to follow these cheesy regulations that didn't make sense. Why are we doing this? Why can't we wear sacks on our back? Why do we have to, tuck our gig in and clean our room? Or why do we need to do these silly, stupid things? It's because many times in life and in the military, you're going to have to do things that you don't know the reason why you need to do them. And you just
Right.
to salute smartly and do the right thing, even though you don't know the reason why. And that's how it is in life. And if you expect others to do the same
Well,
thing,
and isn't that the way it is in combat, Waldo? You don't want to. Nobody wants a Waldo up in his fighter jet, and the commander says, "Go do this," and you go, "Yeah, I don't know. What if I were to go do this?" Aren't they really training you to understand that there's line of command and authority, and you do what you're told? See, this is what Americans rebel against. I think, at least modern Americans, having to do what you're told, right? And there's so much. I think there's so much power in that. It's like guardrails. Nobody complains about guardrails. Why do they have to have a guardrail there? Well, it's to keep you from going over the cliff.
yeah,
And I think that an honor code and things like that are like guardrails.
yeah, it's so true. It's well put, Chris. Uh, you don't want second guessers. You don't want folks working with you or for you who are always doubting your rationale or your reasoning or questioning, because many times in the military, especially flying an F-16, right? Speed is life. Like, you can't delay or you're dead. And so you're flying these
Yeah.
sophisticated pieces of equipment. Everybody has the highest standards. You're well trained. Your life is on the line. Their life is on the line. And so they are ultimately treating you to be warriors for the Constitution and for the freedoms of our country. Plain and simple. And when I recruited these folks, this is what I made sure that they understood. These young 16, 17, 18-year-old kids who were looking to go on a trajectory of serving their country. Many of them wanted to fly. Many of them had a passion for leadership. But at the end of the day, you're being trained to be officers or future officers in the United States Air Force. And that means that you will raise your hand and support the Constitution of the United States, and you may need to go to war. And so,
Yeah.
so those principles, that foundation, that blood is critical to setting the foundation of the culture of the academy and of the military. And what I believe is very common successful principles that anyone should be able to live.
Yeah. Let's move a little bit, having talked about the Air Force Academy, which I just thought would be really interesting to get some perspective from you having gone there. And I think a lot of Americans don't really know, how it works and everything. But let's spend the balance of our time talking about really what you're known for professionally now. Your book, Never Fly Solo, I believe New York Times, Wall Street Journal best-selling book. And that book has taken you all over the world, speaking and training and working with some of the top corporations in America and around the world. Talk to us a little bit about, and maybe give us some context as conservatives today, why we can't be flying solo. One of the things I always say all the time to conservatives, I say it at our events, we are in this together. Why is it important to never fly solo?
Ultimately, you can't win every mission, right? There's always going to be a mission, an issue, a situation in your life where you're lost. You have training, you've got competence, you've got relationships, you've got a certain mindset for success, but there's always going to be some missile, some headwind, some turbulence, something in your life that you're going to say, "Wow, I can't figure this out. I'm scared. I'm lost. Uh, I don't know how to get myself out of this dungeon of despair that I'm in." And when you call out to somebody for help, it's a beautiful thing to know that you have a Rolodex of people who you built relationships with who can give you that trajectory, the encouragement, the idea, the support, the tool necessary to succeed. And so folks at the end of the day may think that they could solve it all. They're very myopic, they're flying in the cockpit, their eyes are moving forward. But guess what? You've got missiles coming at you where you can't see them. You've got
Right.
an engine that may be on fire, you don't even know it, and you're leaking fuel. But a wingman is a man or woman who's on your wing, who's checking your six, your blind spots. They're supporting you. I'm going to show a little photo here,
Yeah.
if you could see it in a second. You're strapped and you can't really move, but your wingmen are behind you. They look over that blind spot and they can see what you can't see. And so the
Right.
concept of Never Fly Solo is really doing what you can to build relationships with others who have your back and who you can feel comfortable going to for help. With
Hmm.
building relationships with those who have your back, who have your best interests in mind, and who you feel comfortable going to for help. And also
Hmm.
by being the type of person that others can come to for help, and supporting others and giving your gift away, sometimes inconveniencing yourself, sometimes making sacrifices to lift up and help those in need. That's ultimately the foundation of what it is to be a wingman, a trusted partner, and to not fly solo. And you and me are a testament to the relationship. I believe you have my back and I have yours. We have our blind spots. We have our expertise. We were talking about that before. We augment each other's skills and help get each other on the right path if we see we're going off of it.
Yeah, you have an interesting video, and I've seen you speak a dozen times, maybe even more. And I always love coming to your speaking engagements. And you have a video that you play that I've seen 5 or 6 times, maybe more, of the fighter pilot who has lost his engines,
Mhm.
and his buddies are flying him into the runway, and it's just really fascinating. It's like dead. It's almost dead quiet, I think, because his engine isn't running or whatever, and all you can hear is these guys. They're like coaching him in, and it's just one of the reasons I love it. First of all, it's just cool, the big jet and all that kind of stuff. But really, the idea that this guy's life was on the line, and these his buddies and the jets next to him were getting him in and getting him home, and that's really what it's about. I think as a wingman is getting your friends, getting your colleagues, getting your family, getting them in, getting them to where they need to be. And I just think so many of us, I don't think we understand the difference between dependence, independence, and interdependence. Like nobody wants to be dependent, right? But everybody wants to be independent. But what I think that the military teaches and what you teach is this idea of interdependence. That is a strong person who can do great things and is talented and smart and accomplished and all those, but still understanding the need for connection with other people. Can you talk to us a little bit about how that concept of interdependence and why it's so important?
It's first starts off with acknowledging the fact that you have blind spots, that you are a work
Yeah.
in progress, right? That you may not have the answers, and that you have a core of humility and compassion with other people and with yourself, that you're willing to ask for help. You see, in my book, my first portion of my book, and even the first portion of all my coaching and speaking, is about the most important wingman or wingmam. I like to call the ladies wingmams, is yourself. When you stare at yourself in the mirror and you zip up your flight suit every morning, you've got to be willing to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what am I doing to build trust in myself? What am I doing to work? As Jim Rohn says, work harder on yourself than you do on the job. What are you doing to to work on your health and fitness, to refine your character, to build your credibility, your skills, to give your wings away, to show compassion to your spouse, your kids, your friends? So it always starts with you. I don't believe it in that, the saying, it's all about them. I think at the end of the day, it starts with you. It's all about you and the work and confidence and integrity and courage that you impart on yourself, that will then bleed over into others, who are dependent on you, because that example that you set is important. So that's one thing about building interdependence. You've got to be doing the work, because we all know the guy or gal that we work with, or maybe on a sports team or at school or in business, who's the weak link. They're pointing fingers, and you said,
Yeah.
if you would just do your job, work on your responsibilities, and do that, fly that lane, and work your radar from 0 to 50,000 feet, we would be a lot better off, instead of you second guessing everybody else and questioning. And so we need to first and foremost do our spot, and then once again be humble enough.
Oh, wait a minute. Before you move on, what you just said reminded me even of what Jesus said. Jesus said, love others as you love yourself. You can't love other people until you learn to love yourself, until you can learn to accept yourself and have an emotional strength within yourself. That allows you to come from a place of health to even love other people.
And
So I really like that you say start with yourself, because to the degree that you're healthy, you can help other people. To the degree that you're wealthy, you can help other people. To the degree that you're emotionally stable, you can help other people. So always begins with working on yourself. I love
if
that.
you've gone through the pains and trials and tribulations and suffered, you can also help people. One of the things I looked at,
Yeah.
to the Academy, we wanted to bring men and women in who went through hell, who showed your biggest failure. Tell me about your biggest defeat, the most humbling situation where you felt you never can make it and you failed. What did you learn from that? You see, failures and
Yeah.
humility and going through the rigmaroles of life, the turbulence and the crucible of pain, that also
Mm-hmm.
emotional context, and it forces you, if you're want to be successful, to get out of that pain zone and work and work and work so that you can be better and be a resource and asset to others. And so I think it's important.
Yeah. You know, when I look at the coaching business, Waldo, I'm sure you see the same thing. You know, I know this guy, he's like 25 years old. He's in the coaching business. And I just think, what do you have to say?
Yeah,
Right? What do you have to, because there's no experience. There's lots of knowledge, but there's no wisdom. And I feel like, you know, at my age, 55, and your similar ballpark age, you know, we finally get into that place where we actually have something really wise to say to people because of good experiences, bad experiences, troubles, pain, suffering, and all those kinds of things you're talking about. You're dead on, dead on.
yeah. The General George Cook said, "Example is the best general order." The example that you set, and many times the humility, the I messed ups, the I'm sorries in life, uh, or I don't know, are a reflection of your confidence because you realize that, hey, I'm not perfect, and then people resonate with that. And so for those
Yeah.
listening, I think it's important for us to just continuously work on ourselves and then be that beacon for other people and then lend your wings away. I think I have a saying, on the ladder of life, you need a hand up. Look up on that ladder, a rung or two up, and say, who can help me? Who can I build a relationship with who's a little smarter, faster, better, more successful, who can lift me to the next level? And then ask them with respect to lift you up. And more often than not, that wingman will lift you up if you do it out of politeness and kindness and respect. But also, successful people on that ladder will have their hand down and look to lift up others who are suffering, who may not be as successful, who may be in the dungeon of despair or paralyzed by fear. And maybe you can give them a little bit of encouragement and lift them up. And so that's how you can feel congruent in life and earn the wings and the opportunity to ask for help by always helping others. So those are very important principles on building your portal of wingmen, the top guns who, when the issues come, you say, I don't have a problem today, maybe temporary, but I'm calling Chris Widener or Joanne Johnson, and
Yeah.
she is going to help me out because you got to build the weapon systems and the bridge before the floods come, right?
Yeah, yeah. Awesome stuff. Well, Waldo, thanks so much for talking to us. I found it fascinating to know more about the U.S. Air Force Academy, which is one of those places where our young men and women go and learn to become great leaders. And thank you for your service and everything you've done for our country, the way that you stand for our country and our values. The values of America is beautiful. We love having you as part of the American Freedom Tour. And tell folks where they can find you again. I know you have something there that you're going to give to them.
Yeah. So once again, Google Waldo Waldman on LinkedIn, social media, Twitter, Instagram, Waldo Waldman at Waldo Waldman. And then I want to give everybody as a gift on behalf of the American Freedom Tour, my book, Never Fly Solo, which was a New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestseller. That's a QR code. If you don't know how to use that, ask your 16-year-old. they'll show you how. Or you go to that website.
Or the web address is there.
What's that?
Or the web address is there, yourwingman.com.
Yourwingman.com/NFS. That's a good way to. And then you can get the audio book. There's some coaching opportunities there if you want to get involved in my monthly program where we sit down and kick off masks and go deeper. So
that's awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Waldo.
You got it, Chris. It was awesome. I wish everybody a wonderful day and stay healthy.
And you got to do what Waldo always teaches us to do at the American Freedom Tour. You got to push it up, right?
Push it up.
I learned that. Be sure to hit your likes. Be sure to hit your stars. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to tell other people. Hit whatever button you need to hit on whatever you're watching or listening to us. Let people know that it's a great deal. And be sure to let other people know where we're bringing you great conservative guests with some amazing stories and incredible journeys that we're going to share with you in the coming months and years to come. I'm Chris Widener, president of the American Freedom Tour. Join us over at AmericanFreedomTour.com.